Footballing Canucks, we gather here today to mourn the death of one of our brothers, the Ottawa Fury. The Ottawa Fury folded today after 6 seasons and 7 years of existence. Founded in 2013 as an NASL team, they played 3 seasons in the NASL until it folded before moving to the USL, where they played the past 3 seasons, qualifying for the playoffs for the first time this year. A perennial semifinalist in the Canadian Championship, the Fury, up until this year at the creation of the Canadian Premier League, were known as Canada's best non-MLS team. But unfortunately today, their time has come to an end. With the announcement of the Canadian Premier League, there was a lot of question marks as to what would happen to the 2 existing non-MLS Canadian professional soccer teams, FC Edmonton and the Ottawa Fury. After the NASL folded in 2017, FC Edmonton chose to take a year hiatus and join the Canadian Premier League. They announced pretty much right after NASL folded that their intention was to join the CPL, and they went that route and were one of the 7 founding members of the Canadian Premier League. The Ottawa Fury, on the other hand, jumped from an unstable NASL to a more stable USL 1 season before the NASL folded. So when that occurred, they were still playing in a league that existed. And when the CPL was announced, they understandably did not want to join a league that had no survivability proof. The USL is not going to die anytime soon. The USL is a growing, fledgling soccer league. It's going to be around for a long, long time. The Ottawa Fury, understandably, wanted to stay in the league that they knew was going to last in case the Canadian Premier League failed. But through year 1, the Canadian Premier League has shown that it is a possibly sustainable league, and it seems like the Fury made the wrong choice. However, with the creation of the CPL, and after the Fury had already denied them, CONCACAF came in and tried to tell the Fury that the exceptional circumstances that allowed them to play in a US league with there being no Canadian league on their level no longer existed, and they tried to force the Ottawa Fury to move to the CPL for the season. Now, of course, the Ottawa Fury likely thought that they could make the most money by being in the USL this season. That's probably true, and they wanted to stay, and there was a whole big legal battle. They took it up to FIFA, and the Ottawa Fury were granted permission to be in USL for 2019. That conditioning, I think, was very dependent on the survivability of the CPL. And now this year, the CPL proved that it's a legit league, and with the Calgary Cavalry beating the Vancouver Whitecaps in the Canadian Championship, beating an MLS team in the Canadian Championship, something that Ottawa Fury never have been able to do, solidified in the minds of everyone that the Ottawa Fury were on the level of a Canadian Premier League team. And because of that, they were not going to be given sanctioning to play in the USL again this coming season. And on top of that, there were rumors that the CPL would have given the Ottawa Fury a huge buy-in discount had they joined last season, but with the Fury basically spiting the CPL and staying in USL last year, there was going to be no hope of a discount, and it seemed like that the Fury were going to be forced to pay the full expansion fee and this full price that the original 7 teams all paid. Now, from the Ottawa Fury point of view, you've joined 2 leagues in the past 6 years. You've been in each league for only 3 years. You want to know what's going on. You don't want to keep jumping leagues. And I understand the Fury not wanting to join the CPL right away. And for the Ottawa Fury here, this was just a bad situation because they were not going to get sanctioning to play in USL anymore, and they didn't want to pay the expansion fee to join the CPL because that's not really fair to them. They've been a team forever, and now you're being forced to join this league. And so, because of all that, they have folded. And this is incredibly sad because it would have been so great for Ottawa to be the 8th CPL team. There were so many people who were thinking, okay, Ottawa's going to join this year, and then they're going to have 2 new teams join in 2021 to bring it up to 10, because that made sense. And people just, the odd number of teams this season in the CPL just were not working out at all, and people wanted there to be an 8th team. And unfortunately, the Ottawa Fury will not be that. And to make matters even worse, the Fury folding altogether is going to leave a poor taste in the mouth of soccer fans in Ottawa, and now the main ownership group that would have gone to the CPL is basically removed from creating a CPL team because they're not going to make another soccer team right now. They would have moved the Ottawa Fury to the CPL if they were okay with that. So now you've lost the ownership group that was going to bring you into Ottawa, And because of that, I don't see the CPL going to Ottawa for quite a while now. I say because of this folding, the timeline of the CPL going to Ottawa changes from 1 to 2 years to it's going to be at least 5 years now before we hear any rumors probably of the CPL going to Ottawa, just because there is going to have to be a whole new group to come up and be like, okay, here's a different stadium than TD Place because you can't use that one, and here's a different group of people who can put together a soccer team and know the soccer community in Ottawa. It's going to have to be a completely different group, and so far there have been no other groups really in Ottawa talking about bringing a CPL team there, so because of that, the timeline for a CPL team in Ottawa has probably at least tripled. So it's incredibly unfortunate that the Ottawa Fury had to die, and this is directly attributed to the Canadian Premier League. If the Canadian Premier League never existed, the Ottawa Fury would still be alive 100%. But for the Fury, you can't blame them because I feel like every move they made was the right move. They jumped NASL to USL before the CPL was announced. And that right there is the key thing. Had they stuck out in the NASL an extra year, when the NASL folded, the CPL would have been just being announced and they probably would have joined the CPL for the inaugural season, did what FC Edmonton did and took a year off. But because they jumped to the USL, they were in a league that's growing and the revenue in that league is growing. Well, there was no league from the play-in in 2018, and then in 2019 they had already been in the USL for 2 years and they liked it there, and I completely understand why they would want to stay in the USL, because staying in a growing and established league is much, much better than moving into a brand new league for the first year. And unfortunately, just CONCACAF just jumped on them. They weren't able to stay in USL. I think if the Fury were given the option, they would have stayed in USL for a couple of years, maybe next year or 2 years join the CPL 100%. But the Ottawa Fury, you could tell for right now, they want to stay in USL, and just they were not allowed to operate the way they want to operate. And I feel like because of that, if the Ottawa Fury were not forced to move and not had their sanctioning to play in the USL just taken away from them, they probably would have moved to the CPL on their own time. But because they were forced to do it at a time when they weren't ready to, and a time when they didn't want to, they just decided that the easier thing to do would just be to fold completely. So, goodbye Ottawa, I'll miss playing you in the Canadian Championship, always a great semi-final matchup. Thank you for everything you've done for the soccer community in Ottawa, and it's been a great 6 seasons. So yeah, that does it for this video. If you liked it, hit like. If you want to see more of my stuff, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, link is down below in the description, and I will see you next time.